Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Democrats talk about climate crisis. My guess is most Americans are more concerned right now about the inflation crisis. Ms. Tubbs, is the price of gas higher today than it was a year ago?
Yes.
How about the price of everything? Is the price of everything higher today than it was a year ago?
Generally, yes.
And when you shut down a pipeline, is that probably one of the factors that contributed to the higher cost of gas today?
It's hard for me to make a connection from A to B, but it certainly doesn't help. The way to decrease prices is to increase supply, and pipelines are an incredibly important part of it.
Is the overall cost of energy higher today than it was a little over a year ago?
Yes, significantly.
And when the price of energy goes up, that drives the cost of everything else, because you got to ship it, you got to make it. It takes energy to make things. It takes energy to transport things. It takes energy to ship things. So when the price of energy goes up, it contributes greatly to the price of everything else increasing. Is that accurate?
Yes, that's correct. I think you could call energy the master resource because of its impact throughout the economy.
So it sort of begs the obvious question, would it help if the United States produced more oil and gas and more energy here? Would that be helpful?
Absolutely. I think, yes, that's basic economics. To solve for high prices and high demand, you increase supply. So
basic economics would help with the fundamental fact we're dealing with today, which is we have a 40-year high inflation. It would help if we would increase oil and gas production here, right?
Yes, absolutely. And I think the resources, the policies to be able to do that.
Well, then why would the Democrats want to decrease production? I mean, we had a hearing in this very room. Well, you're not in this room, you're virtual, but we're in the room. We had a hearing in this room a few months ago where one of our Democrat colleagues said to the CEO of Exxon, Mr. Woods, would you commit to reducing the production of oil? Is that going to help with the 40-year high inflation rate and the price of gas and the price of energy, Ms. Tubbs?
No, and I don't want to guess at people's intentions. I think we all strive for the well-being of our country, but I think there's a disconnect between aspirations and reality in some cases.
Well, you don't have to, question anyone's intentions. His intentions were clear because he said to the CEO of Chevron, he said, are you embarrassed as an American company that your production's going up? I mean, to me, that's one of the craziest questions I've ever heard. You ask the CEO of a company, are you embarrassed that you're making more of your product and selling more of your product? I thought that's what you're supposed to do. So I don't think it's questioning their intentions. Their intentions are clear. They want to destroy the oil and gas industry in this country, and they want to continue to drive up the cost of energy, drive up the cost of goods and services, and they must like this 40-year high inflation. Because I don't know is there any other conclusion that a rational person could reach, Ms. Tubbs?
I don't think so. And sir, to your point just now, I think one of the more troubling things about this conversation is that politicians at all should be telling a company what they ought to produce and what kind of company they ought to be.
Well, someone needs to tell that to the Democrats, because that's all they want to do. That's all they want. Is it better to produce energy in the United States of America to help our economy, or would it be better to bring it in from overseas?
I think we have a lot of resources here in the United States that provide affordable, reliable energy. I think the goal is to have free flow of energy and free trade of energy, because there's efficiencies to be gained there that help consumers.
Okay, and let me just ask you this too, because we now have the spectacle of the President of the United States begging OPEC to increase production. Does the President of the United States asking and begging OPEC to increase production, will that help with climate change and the climate crisis that the Democrats talk about so much?
No, and I think the reason I'm struggling with some of this conversation is, President Biden's administration has admitted that the U.S. could shut off their emissions, if that were possible, tomorrow, and it'd have no impact on global temperatures by the end of the century. So what this amounts to is wanting to release the political pressure for high energy prices, pursue a political agenda for certain energy technologies, and I think in some cases.
So Ms. Tubbs, if I could I just interject, because you said something important there. So the position of this administration is they want America to go to zero emissions, which will not change what's happening relative to the climate around the world because all these other countries pollute so badly. But at the same time they're doing that, they're actually begging foreigners, OPEC, to increase production and send it in, which will exacerbate the very problem you just cited. Is that accurate?
Yes, and I think it's a disconnect between wanting to relieve short-term political pressure and understanding that the energy resources we need take time and investment. And so you can't solve these problems by looking for short-term fixes or easy ways out. You have to have an open market that allows people to invest in this country.
Time has expired.
Thank you.
Thank you. I recognize myself for 5 minutes.